What's up, y'all? It's Mermy, current Superstar Saga speedrun champ, and also current Paper Mario speedrun chump. I'm back with another tier list video. This tier list is going to be for the original 8 Paper Mario 64 partners. So that's going to be Goombario, Kooper, Bombette, Parakarry, Bo, Watt, Sushie, and Spike. I'm going to go about it a little bit differently than last time, where I ranked this, and this, and I took those scores together for the full game score. Instead, this time, I'm really just going to use the criteria to factor into a single ranking of the partner's overall usefulness. In Paper Mario, the partners are very much like sidekicks to Mario, who is the real damage dealer, or tank, or whatever you want him to be, really. Mario's just the best character, so it's really about whoever complements him the best, or in more scenarios. And each partner has a specific job that they do, and being unique or being better at the job than others can help the partner stand out. So specific criteria for each partner will be their damage outputs, and that's their base attack damage, their high damage options, and also multi-target damage. They also have utilities, so they're moves that don't do damage but still have other useful effects. And then I'll also try and touch on other useful quirks about each partner. Things like standout chapters where you really want these partners out, whether or not they outclass or are outclassed by other partners in certain aspects, and then specific niches that each partner has. Stuff like that that's different from straight numbers like with the other criteria. And all of this is going to be based on both my dozens of casual playthroughs of this game, as well as my newish perspective of speedrunning the game, since that surely has given me new knowledge and perspective that is relatively uncommon and definitely based on my super high skill level at this game. But anyways, now that that's out of the way, I plan to go in order of worst to best, so let's start out with the low tier partners. And first up, in my opinion, is the worst partner, Kooper. So don't let anyone tell you otherwise, Kooper is definitely the worst partner. I saw a recent tier list of the Pape partners, and I was absolutely disgusted by how someone had the audacity to put Kooper not only not last, but also kinda high tier. In all seriousness, Kooper, he's gotta be bottom 2. He has one of the worst base attacks with Shell Toss. The grounded only restriction is probably the most hindering restriction due to the larger amounts of airborne enemies compared to other, I guess quirks, like spikes, if you want to call them quirks. His multi-target move, Power Shell, is actually his best attribute. He's one of only 2 partners that have a base rank multi-target move, and it's pretty useful in the beginning of Chapter 2. Kooper and Mario combo can clear, I think, pretty much all grounded encounters. But starting in Chapter 3, you're going to need more than 4 or 5 damage to clear, and Kooper never really can get over this damage barrier for the rest of the game. Now, you can increase the Power Shell damage by upgrading him to Super Rank starting in Chapter 2, but that damage is really only useful for the weaker enemy formations, and you would be better served upgrading other party members at this point. Now for his other moves. Dizzy Shell at Super Rank. I personally don't think this is useful, but for those of you who do like this move, I have to mention that I think it gets outclassed by other utility moves. Like if you could do damage and set yourself up with something good, since the enemies are going to get a turn to attack, that'd be really useful getting over the mid-game damage hump. But unfortunately, I feel like Dizzy Shell is usually just a waste of a turn. Kooper's Ultra Rank move, Fire Shell, is pretty good though. It's really just Power Shell, but with an extra power doing damage. That 6 damage is really lucky because for some reason Power Shell's damage at Ultra Rank is only 4 instead of 5 like his regular attack. So yeah, thankfully Fire Shell exists, but still being grounded enemies only kinda sucks. Even with the fire attribute, it isn't great, since it's only plus 2 damage, so it won't even OHKO Ice Piranhas without Mario. If super effective moves were double damage like in Pokemon, this niche would actually have use, but unfortunately with just plus 2, Fire Shell is still low tier. Overall, Kooper himself is just a low tier partner. He has no way to increase his damage output, being stuck at 2 to 6 damage max on normal enemies, has no real utility, no use on boss fights. In regular encounters, he does have some use early on, being the only screen clearer in Chapter 1, but starting in Chapter 2, other characters can do Kooper's job and do it better throughout the rest of the game. So as I said, low tier. time for the next Lakilester partner, that being Lakilester. Yeah, I bet that joke's never been made before. So yeah, Spike unfortunately I think is low tier along with Kooper. His base attack Spiny Flip is actually pretty good. It's really just a good shell toss, actually. It has the same power but can hit It has the same power but can hit enemies anywhere on screen. Lackey is also the other partner besides Kooper that has a base rank multi-target attack in Spiny Surge. But that's not really a big deal since by the time you get Lackey, you should have multiple super rank partners and even ultra rank partners. And just like with Spiny Flip, Spiny Surge is just a better version of Kooper's attack Power Shell. Everything is the same, the power, the FP, the only thing that changes is that it can hit all types of enemies, which is an upgrade from the previous move. Lackey's super rank move, Cloud 9, is, surprise, a better version of Kooper's move, Dizzy Shell. Now this one is actually up for debate because Cloud 9 actually has a different effect than Dizzy Shell. Instead of targeting enemies, Cloud 9 targets Mario. It boosts Mario's evasion for a few turns, similar to the Close Call effect. I personally think that accuracy statuses are better served on Mario rather than the enemies. Mostly because enemies die, so you never really get the full extent of the effect like with Mario, who keeps the effect after you kill the enemy and move on to the next. Lackey's Ultra Rank move, Hurricane, is an enemy remover attack. Enemy remover attacks instantly clear the enemy or enemies for 0 star points. Depending on how you like to play, you might prefer to actually kill every enemy, but I don't think you can deny that an instant KO is pretty useful, especially something like Hurricane that clears every enemy. It does have accuracy issues though, like most utility moves, but it's still pretty good. Overall, even though Lackey suffers from the same problem as Kooper, where you have no real option for higher damage output, Lackey can still do things even if you can't kill the enemy. Probably the worst thing about Lackey is that he's only available starting at the end of Chapter 6. You really don't have him for very long, so he never gets a chance to shine like Kooper does in the early game. But the fact that you actually have some sort of utility that can be used in boss fights, and some sort of late game clearing, puts Lackey above Kooper for me. Still low tier though. Next up, it's time for mid tier. The way the tiers are going to work is that low tier, aka Kooper and Lakilester, is a tier of characters that I feel are pretty much always worse than other partners in every fight scenario. They don't really have any niche for more than like half a chapter and are outclassed instantly or almost instantly by a new partner or upgrade. Starting now, characters are going to have some sort of unique job or utility that only gets better as you go higher up in the tier list. With that being said, mid tier is going to be occupied by the one and only Goombario. Goombario, the hype man of the squad. In base, Goombario only has Head Bonk and Tattle. After upgrading, Goombario gets Charge and then Multi-Bonk. Right away, Goombario is pretty unique with his base damage. Head Bonk is one of the better partner attacks. While he only starts with 1 attack power and increases by 1 every level, Head Bonk is a double hit, so starting at Super Rank, Goombario is probably going to be your strongest base attacker. Unfortunately, this only applies to single targets though, since Goombario is actually the only partner in the game that doesn't have an attack, damaging, or utility that targets multiple enemies. You might be thinking, how's Goombario better than low tier without being able to clear normal enemies? Well, that's because instead of doing a little bit of everything poorly, like how Kooper and Lackey do, Goombario really just doubles down on his strengths and focuses on single target damage output. At Super Rank, he gets a Charge, which increases his power on the next attack by 2 points, and this stacks as well. This alone, however, doesn't really turn Goombario into a great partner, but once you combine it with Multi-Bonk at Ultra Rank, Goombario kinda turns into a boss killer. With the Charge Multi-Bonk combo, you're able to do 16 plus damage for only 4 FP, which is probably the most efficient damage per FP attack you're ever gonna get. And for the problem of bosses with defense, it's nothing another charge can't fix. So 2 turns of charging with both Mario and Goombario into Multi-Bonk / Power Bounce pretty much deals with every boss in the game, something that no other partner can do. I really value his ability to do high damage, but unfortunately this niche can only carry him so far. No real utility other than Tattle, which I guess is required for 100%, which I usually do for my playthroughs, but otherwise it's useless. He's mid-tier, not great, but has a standout use, and that's gonna be it for mid-tier. Yeah, Goombario is the only partner inside. And now it's time for the high-tier partners. And we're starting with Bombette. So you get Bombette in Chapter 1, and right out the gate, she's the best partner. Late Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 are where enemies that have higher HP and or higher defense become more common. Example, the cannons. And Bombette is the first partner that can actually deal damage to these enemies thanks to Bomb. Bomb starts out as a 5 damage attack for 3 FP, and 5 damage is insane for the early chapters. It also upgrades by 1 damage for every rank up. And what's more is that with her upgrades, which I would recommend her being one of the first 2 party members that you upgrade to super rank in Chapter 2, she gets a wide area attack in Power Bomb. Power Bomb is pretty much Bomb if it multi-targeted all ground enemies for 6 FP. This might seem high cost, but instant high damage is so much better than you might think. Early game, you're going to be insta-clearing all grounded encounters and most encounters with airborne enemies as well, depending on Mario's attack. Bombette is the best screen clearer for pretty much half of the game, and she gets even better at Ultra Rank when you get Mega Bomb. Mega Bomb is yet another direct upgrade to her previous move. Mega Bomb does 7 damage, but to all enemies on screen instead of only grounded enemies. And depending on your badge setup, even late game encounters in Chapter 7 and 8 could be O-code with a Power Bomb / Mega Bomb into Mario attack without needing any random buffs, like how Kooper would need an ice enemy to even do half damage. Overall, she's really useful throughout the game. Instant high damage on a single target, in my opinion, the best and only good multi-target move throughout half the game in Power Bomb. Is still useful at Ultra Rank with the high damage and new move Mega Bomb. Now, Body Slam is probably the worst base attack in the game, but Bombette's strengths do more than make up for it, so high tier. Now for her partner in crime, Parakarry. Alright. Parakarry is the 4th partner you meet in the beginning of Chapter 2, and right away at base rank, he's really just a better Bombette. His base attack Skydive is a better aerial Body Slam, but where Parakarry really shines is Shell Shot. Shell Shot is pretty much an aerial bomb. It's an instant high damage move starting at 5 damage for 3 FP that can hit every enemy in the game regardless of screen position. It's the best damaging move until Chapter 5, and with Shell Shot, Parakarry is the best damage option for every boss in Chapter 2 and 3. It's also a non-direct attack, so if an enemy has double guarded, like it's on fire or it's electric and airborne, Shell Shot is one of the only attacks, including any of Mario's attacks, that can still do damage to the enemy. So yeah, in all honesty, Parakarry kinda gets carried by Shell Shot. Using only a single move might not sound great, but really Shell Shot is just that good. It's definitely not his only good quality though. At Ultra Rank, Parakarry finally unlocks his multi-target attack in Air Raid. Air Raid is kinda like the best of both worlds when it comes to multi-target attacks. It does actual good damage with 6 damage for only 6 FP. It's more cost effective than Mega Bomb while being noticeably stronger than Spiny Surge. And due to this higher damage, Air Raid can actually see use in late game. His super rank move, however, Airlift, is it's a utility, I guess. It's an enemy clearing attack, however, it's only single target, and it gets outclassed by both Lakilester's Hurricane at Ultra Rank, and another partner's move at Super Rank. Still useful, I guess, if you need it in like Chapter 2, but otherwise insignificant. So yeah, Parakarry really lives and dies by Shell Shot for most of the game, but it's really useful on encounters and bosses. He has one of the better multi-target attacks that actually does high damage. Overall, great. High tier. Honestly, Parakarry is actually really close to top tier, but I'm gonna keep him here in high tier. I know some people actually see him as one of the best partners, mostly in part due to how early you get him and his usefulness throughout those early chapters, but I think having a useless move in Airlift is still kind of whack. Still though, he's definitely great. Both him and Bombette are great, but I think they are really just great attack spammers, which is perfectly fine to beat the game. However, the partners in the highest tier can do even more than just kill everything. Alright, so our last 3 partners are all pretty godly. They are a cut above the rest and are going in my top tier. Now, it's really hard to order them because all of them are so good and so close together. That being said, I'm completely understand if you personally would place any of these 3 partners as number 1. Me, personally, I'm going to start out with Sushie. So, Sushie's strengths are damage, defensive utility, and then damage and even more damage. In base form, Sushie is pretty much Parakarry. Belly Flop is Skydive, and Squirt, of course, is Shell Shot. And remember how I was just raving about Shell Shot and how useful it is and how that single move carries Parakarry into high tier itself? Yeah, Sushie's got it too. And what's even better though is that Squirt has an extra effect in being water type, so just like with Fire Shell, it can do super effective damage, this time to fire type enemies. And that's a huge plus since +2 to a strong move is much more useful than +2 to a weak move. The boost in Squirt's case is just enough to make a difference when fighting fire enemies. And because of this, Sushie is 100% the best partner for the volcano in Chapter 5. As for Sushie's defensive utility, Sushie gets Water Block at Super Rank. Water Block raises defense by 1 for multiple turns depending on your timing. This helps Mario outlast bosses and helps set up for Peril strats. Although Peril strats are a bit tryhard, they are useful. However, most people probably intuitively think that being 1 turn away from death is not something you should ever want. For Sushie's coup de grace, she gets Tidal Wave at Ultra Rank. Tidal Wave is technically the best damaging attack in the entire game. It is a multi-target move that does damage based on your action command success. You can semi-consistently get Megavon levels of damage if you're a god, or you do, I think it's called Cycle Mashing or Snow World. I think it's called Snow World. You can do 10 plus damage every single time. Again, doing +2 damage against fire enemies as well. And this alone can pretty much end every encounter in the game, sometimes even without Mario. And you can even out-damage Mario on bosses with Sushie, which is really insane. This type of damage is something that no other partner can do, and even Goombario, who I mentioned was a boss killer earlier in the video, needs setup to get close to it. Overall, Sushie is really Parakarry Deluxe. Best single target damage in the game, best multi-target damage in the game, good defensive utility, great in boss fights, and game breaking against encounters. You do get Sushie relatively late, being the second to last partner you get, but like I said, she's 100% the best partner in Chapter 5, and a great choice for later chapters as well. Her only weakness is that her attacks require more strict timing to pull off, but even at casual play, you'll be able to do great damage. She's no doubt one of the best partners in the game, and our first partner in top tier. Okay, next up, we have Bo. Now, Sushie definitely has a claim to best partner in the game, but I would guess that more people have Bo as their best partner. Maybe even more so than our last partner, so you might be surprised that I'm putting Bo at second. But yeah, she's godly. Bo's strengths are defensive utility and high damage on 0 defense enemies. Smack is one of the best base attacks, starting at 4 damage in base, and going up 6 damage, or going up to 6 damage at Ultra Rank. Smack has the highest base damage along with Goombario's Headbonk, however, it gets wrecked even more by enemies with any points of defense, since it's a multi-hit move with only 1 damage per hit. Bo kinda gets over this issue with Fan Smack. Fan Smack being only a 2 damage multi-hit move still kinda gets wrecked by any sort of defense. And I don't think 5 FP for 5 damage is really worth it, so most of the time you're only going to be doing damage to 0 defense enemies. This is Bo's main weakness, but luckily there aren't many defensive enemies in the game, and Mario can deal with those that do get in the way. Bo also can get over these enemies with her super rank move, Spook. Spook is a multi-target attack that clears enemies. It's pretty much Hurricane, except you get it almost instantly with Super Rank when you get Bo, where it outclasses your other enemy clearing move in Airlift. Now, I might be capping, but I'm pretty sure Spook is one of the more accurate utility moves too, so when in doubt, Spook. So for enemies with 0 defense, you have great free damage in Smack, and for enemies with defense, you can spook them away. So what is Bo supposed to do when she can't hit a defensive boss? Well, that's the thing. Bo has probably the single best utility move, and depending on who you ask, the single best move period in the game with Out of Sight. Out of Sight makes Mario invisible for a turn, dodging every single attack. This move is amazing. Every boss has some sort of super move that does huge damage, and having Bo out pretty much makes it so bosses can never kill you. My only issue with Bo really is that Out of Sight is kinda just a worse repel gel. This might be hater talk, but there's a couple of repel gels in the game, and if you save them for the right times, it's definitely better to just use them up and then do a huge amount of damage with Mario and other partners. But I understand that this ranking is more so based on the partner's utility in a more controlled environment, I guess, so I can't deny how great Out of Sight is, especially combined with the Quick Change badge, since you can swap Bo in and out instantly, so she can get over her damage output problems by letting other partners do all the work until you need to use Out of Sight. That still requires using other partners though, so I can't completely give Bo a bonus for that. But overall, Bo's got great single target damage to 0 defense enemies, spook to clear encounters, and of course Out of Sight. A great utility partner that's useful in every chapter and every boss fight. Top tier. Alright, time for the final partner. And if you've played the game, you know who it is, it's Watt. Watt, I think, is the best partner. Watt's got great damage and great both offense and defense utility, which are straight up game breaking in my opinion. But let's start off small and grow into it. Watt's base attack, Electro Dash, is one of the best attacks in the game, doing up to 5 damage when upgraded. The thing that makes Electro Dash special is that it pierces defense. No matter what, as long as Watt can touch the enemy, she's gonna do 5 damage. For a base attack without needing FP, this attack is approaching Shell Shot levels of usefulness. A super high tier move, but unfortunately this is Watt's only form of damage. Fear not, however, since Watt makes up for her low damage with her offensive utility. At Super Rank, Watt gets Turbocharge, which increases Mario's attack power for multiple turns. Watt is the only partner that straight up powers up Mario as well. And like I said at the beginning of the game, like I said at the beginning of the video, Mario can really do anything. He's your best damage dealer aside from Sushie, and can set himself up as well. So that combined with a turbocharge can give Mario the extra damage needed to OHKO a boss. So instant 5 damage and +1 to Mario are really great. But next up, we have the game breaking stuff. These are Power Shock and Mega Shock. These are the paralysis moves that are unique to Watt. Power Shock is a single target attack that Watt starts with, and Mega Shock is a multi-target move that's unlocked at Ultra Rank. These attacks are game breaking, like I keep saying. If you hit a Power Shock or a Mega Shock, the fight's over. The enemy or boss, and yeah, that's right, these attacks work on every boss except for the few electric bosses and Final Bowser, gets stunned for multiple turns, unable to move. Oftentimes, you just kill the boss before they actually get to do anything. The only issue with these moves, like all utility moves, are the accuracy, but if you hit them, that's it. A lot of boss fights can go like this. Turn 1, Super Jump Charge and Power Shock. Turns 2 and 3, more Super Jump Charges, with an Electro Dash and a Turbo Charge. Turn 4, Power Bounce for like 60 plus damage, and then the fight is basically, if not, completely over. The same goes for encounters too, with multiple enemies. You hit a Mega Shock and you can take your time killing every enemy one by one, or just nuking them with another partner. Good base damage and utility, the only partner with a straight up game breaking move, and of course her badass design of being a little sparky makes her top tier. And overall, I think the top tier is pretty arguable, but this is the way I think it's best set up. Every partner on this tier is great and destroys the game. Even Parakarry and Bombette in high tier do, but these top 3 have something special that puts them above the rest. What else is great is that they complement each other really well, especially with quick change. So even though my preferred number 1 being Watt, if you want to use any of the top tier and even lower tier partners, they can be switched out for whatever scenario that's right for them. Except for Kooper. Kooper, he sucks. But yeah, another tier list down. As always, I still stream speedruns all the time. I'm currently grinding the Paper Mario speedrun to hopefully get good. Maybe get the world record on Switch soonish. But check it out. Follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. I've been in a tier list mood, and I'm really into a lot of niche games and Nintendo stuff. So if you like this kind of stuff, like, comment, subscribe for more. And do it for more non-tier list content as well, since I do plan on making other cool gaming vids in the future. Peace out.